Hi everyone. Let's take a couple of minutes and talk about the invention of writing in ancient Mesopotamia. So starting around 8000 BCE, in the archaeological record, we begin to see clay tokens, these small shapes that appear all the way down through just after the midpoint of the 4th millennium. And most of them are plain, but starting in the 4th millennium, you start to see more of a decorated type of token. Some of them actually have a small hole punched in them, and they were hung on a string, ostensibly. And these more complex tokens appear to have a resemblance to later cuneiform writing. So the individual cuneiform signs. So it's been argued that perhaps these more complex tokens have a very distinct connection or relationship with cuneiform writing. But what we do know is that starting around 3400, we begin to see these clay envelopes, and essentially they're just clay balls that have these plain tokens sealed inside of them. And many of these clay envelopes were found in context, in administrative context. And we have actually quite a number of them still intact with the tokens still inside, and you can hear them rattling around inside. We know almost unquestionably that these tokens are the forerunners of the early numerical signs that we see in the earliest tablets. So in 3300, so that progresses for about a year and 100 years. Then in 3300, roughly down to 3200, these clay balls, we start to see them with the tokens still inside, but the tokens are impressed on the outside of the clay envelope while the clay is still wet. And sometimes we actually see the tokens done away with. They just smush down the clay envelope and take and impress the tokens on the outside and don't even bother putting the tokens on the inside. And so these represent an early numerical system. Very shortly after, right around 3200, we start to see these same type of numerical impressions, but alongside them, we begin to see usually one, sometimes two ideographs written next to them. So a numerical value and then an ideograph representing a commodity of some sort, so sheep, grain, fruit, textiles. These single entry tablets are ultimately, each one has a single entry, almost like a receipt, and then later on these receipts are all compiled into like a compilation tablet where all the different receipts are put into individual separate columns, individual cases for accounting purposes. So if you can kind of follow this, go back through it really quickly, these early tokens were at least used as counting devices. They began to be enclosed in these balls, these clay envelopes for security purposes, and sealed, with a cylinder seal on the outside for authenticity. And later, very shortly thereafter, they were impressing the tokens that were inside. Before they put them in the ball, they'd impress them on the outside. And then ultimately I don't know, but it was decided, it developed, that they would just push down the clay, not even form the ball, the envelope, and they would impress the tokens on the outside, showing these early signs. And that eventually turned into writing cuneiform signs on the outside to represent those numerals and those ideographs. So of course, down by the Uruk 4a period, which we can talk about in detail in another video, we have a full array of archaic signs, 1900 ideograms, and we begin to see actual lexical lists. So writing takes off, and it takes off pretty quickly. So it's an interesting transition, and it's actually a lot of fun to do the research and see how writing developed in ancient Mesopotamia. See the link below for some more reading, easy reading, I think, that you can do to kind of delve into this a little bit further. Thanks.